Jose Aguiniga, thank you very much for coming on to theboxingbar.com, man, and welcome.
Well, thank you for having me and listening to my nonsense.
Well, it's been a long time, man. I remember trying to get you on since one of your local fights, one of the last fights that you fought. I tried to get you on to do an interview, and it didn't happen back then. But I'm glad I finally get you on, and I'm honored to have you on. You're one of those fighters I remember back in the heyday of Oxnard boxing, and man, I couldn't have this show without guys like yourself, and like you and my last guest, Rolando Reyes, who, man, you guys were awesome in some of the last good times in Oxnard boxing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was hard,
Yeah.
and but it was nothing but good times those days when all them great fighters that we had there in Oxnard. Starting off with Robert Garcia, Fernando, and the list keeps going.
And you were some of that list that kept it going. And to get a little bit of your story, man, some background on you, let's go ahead and start with the questions I ask everybody coming off. The last time we talked, when we were setting up to do this interview, I remember you brought up that you were actually born in the Chicago area or something like that. Is that where your parents lived?
You know what? When they first came from Mexico, they did go to Chicago to Aurora, and me and my older brother Mario, me and him were born out there. Then from there, my parents went to Mexico, left us over there for I believe it was a year, which we were just I was like a year old when they left us over there, and my brother was two. Um, then from there, I guess they decided to go to Oxnard, and we were there. Well, we were there since then. My uncle used to box for a while at the Colonia gym, and that's kind of how we started, you know. And but we grew up in Oxnard, was born in Aurora, and that was it.
Yeah. And I remember several months back, I had Robert Garcia on, and he was raised there at 1301 Commercial, as you were. And he said, I remember him saying that living there were the best times of his life. What was it like growing up there as a kid there in the commercial area in Oxford?
Man, it was great. It was everybody knew everybody. If something happened, everybody had everybody's back, and it was fun. Everybody we never got into it with none of the people that lived in that little area, and it was just great moments. We did everything that a kid did, which in those days wasn't just being on their phone.
Yeah,
We went out, we played, we rode bikes, we did every kid what every kid should be doing now. We
right.
played out and playing soccer, playing marbles and everything. So it was great growing up there, and and now my kids have the chance to live that kind of life, which is not the same anymore because everything changes and it just not the same as it was before. Since over there, a lot of us grew up together, and we were kids growing up to teenagers to adults, and we were always together. Now, some people move in, they move out, and it's different. It's
Right.
not the same as before.
Right.
But, it was great living there and growing up there.
And I remember Robert also saying that his dad used to train, him and his brothers and his sisters and a lot of the local kids around there. Is that kind of, did you learn from Mr. Eduardo Garcia some boxing during that time, or did you get it from, like you said, your uncle who trained you? How did you get into boxing?
Well, see, my uncle used to train at the Colonia gym. His coach was Martin Noriega.
Mhm.
Okay, and we went to watch him at the Performing Arts Center for one of his amateur fights, and well, he got beat up. They used to call him the robot, so he was really stiff. Um, but after that, my dad, took us in to check it out, see if we liked it, and we didn't stop ever since, and stopped going to the Colonna gym, and we loved it, and we still love the sport. I try to watch all the fights that I can. I tried, I was coaching some kids, but work sometimes it's hard with work, and since now I gotta travel. But yeah, we started off in La Colonia. I started at the age of 7. I mean 8, and my brother was 9. And yeah, I mean, we learned from Mr. Eduardo, Mario Uribe was there, and Martin Noriega. So we got a little bit of everything, but the head was always Mr. Garcia.
Yeah. I think I asked you and a bunch of other fighters at one time what it was like to train there at the La Colonia gym. Later on it would become like the legendary now. That's like a legendary spot now in Oxnard because of you guys. What was it like the first time that you went there to train? I mean, what attracted you to keep wanting to go and to keep continuing to do that? What was that something that got your attention in this sport of boxing?
Just the atmosphere that we had at that time. Um, the atmosphere with the people around, and we just, you know what, to tell you the truth, it was just the atmosphere, the people. I mean, as a kid, I was kind of a little, timid kid, kind of scared, and boxing helped me out with this, helped me out with being timid and scared, and even though, it was hard, especially at that age for me. It was really hard because I remember I used to spar and come out crying every single day that I was spar, or I mean, the days that I was spar, I would get out crying, and everybody was kind of like a little step ahead of me all the time, and it makes it even harder when you're scared, timid, shy, so it makes it harder. And but as soon as I walked into that gym, I felt comfortable. As a kid, at 8 years old, when you go somewhere and you feel comfortable and feel that you could do things that you can't do at home or anywhere else, I mean, that's a good sign. And that's how I felt when I first got there. And trust me, with the Colonna gym when I first got there was beat up, was a beat up gym
Yeah.
and a lot of old stuff. Um, but I liked it and I fell in love with it since I was 8 years old.
Your brother Mario was a standout amateur fighter. I remember hearing of his name often during that time. Like you said, you guys are only about a year apart. Was he the same as you as far as you said you were a little timid and stuff? What was he totally different? What was he like as a fighter?
Oh, he was totally different from me. He was the one out there all the time, and a little more loud, uh, not shy at all for anything. And yeah, we were like totally different in a way where he's more out there, and I'll hold back a little more. So for everything, he's more aggressive or out there, and I hold back a little bit more. But um, when we started, he was always in tournaments, like you said, out nationals, everything. And I was the one always, I was there but not there. I was like the Rocky at first, getting beat up, getting all this stuff beat up, and losing. And but I started picking it up after maybe 12. I started going to nationals, you know um getting better at it, where I would see now different things that I wouldn't see when I was a little younger. Because I was at 8, 9, 10, 11. I was more just of throwing punches and just being aggressive, just coming forward, throwing punches. Um, and then once you're at 12, then okay, you see things a little different. You see now punches coming, now head movement, a little more leg movement. So I was like you say, a late bloomer in the boxing, you know. But it was actually good for me, I guess, because I felt all the hard work that it paid off to get where I was at that time.
And you sure did, and all the experience that you would rack up, like you said, it did pay off because you got pretty far in the or to be a hopeful for the 2000 Olympics, right? Or how far did you get
Yeah,
in that?
for the 2000 Olympics, I went to the Olympic trials, got third place, which it's an accomplishment. I
Absolutely.
mean, not a lot of people get to be there,
Exactly.
and that was one of my amateur accomplishments, which I practically won every single tournament as an amateur. I mean, but national tournaments. I believe there was only one national tournament I didn't win, which was I think the junior Golden Gloves, or yeah, I believe the junior Golden Gloves. I believe I don't remember exactly, but I think there was only that one tournament that I didn't win as an amateur. But it was also hard because there was times where you leave by yourself and you're with random people and you don't have practically nobody there unless your family comes or drives along. But it it also helps you to learn how to be on your own, be independent. So you learn a lot about a lot, from boxing.
Right, absolutely.
How to be independent, how to, at those airports when you're a kid, you're like, man, where do I go?
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
that's true.
and so you learn a lot of stuff, and you learn how to be with different kind of people, not just sometimes if you're Mexican, you're just gonna be with Mexican families, so you're able to meet a lot of people from different races, and it just makes it even better, or makes it fun to learn to meet all these people.
Like you said, in the 2000 Olympics, you got or to go to that, you got third place. You didn't make it. You ended up debuting in 2000. What was that like when somebody fights so many years since you were a kid, and all the way to you're 18, 19, and you're becoming pro? What was that like the first time you became a pro fighter? What was that transition like?
Well, you know what? Well, after that, the Olympic trials, I went to fight. Since they thought I was still a little green for pros, they made me do another tournament, which was the Golden Gloves in
Oh,
2000 or 2001, I believe. I don't remember exactly. I think it was 2000.
yeah.
So I fought the Golden Gloves after that and won the national Golden Gloves. I think it was in 2000.
Yeah, it had to be 2000 because
Yeah, it was 2000. Yeah,
you debuted in 2000 in August. So, uh,
yeah. So it was in 2000. And I won the nationals, the 2000 nationals, Golden Gloves, and after that, I talked to him. We talked. We had a talk with Top Rank right after the Golden Gloves, or actually it was before in the Olympic trials, and Mr. Garcia. During that time, I think was Robert. I don't remember if Robert was a Top Rank or I don't remember exactly, but Mr. Garcia was talking to Top Rank, Cameron Duncan, which was my manager at that time, and they had everything ready for me to turn pro. And they decided, we should take, one more tournament as an amateur, which was the Golden Gloves, and won the nationals. And then after that, we talked it over with my dad, the family, Mr. Garcia, Ruben Juarez or he was there with me at that time as well. And we decided to turn pro. And well, the transaction was not really hard for me because, like I'm telling you, I was kind of aggressive, but at the same time, I was more like a counter puncher at the time. I believe. So once you're a little aggressive, plus you have that counter punch boxing style, it makes it a little. I mean, I was able to box and was able to brawl a little bit. So it kind of made it easy for me to transition from amateur to pro. And it wasn't. I mean, the training was different because for a pro fight you train different than an amateur, and that was a little different, which it wasn't that bad. I mean, it is a difference, but it's not as bad as it's not that much to add.
right. I've talked to a lot of amateur fighters that never went pro, but just did the amateur thing, and I would ask them like, "Oh, why didn't you turn pro?" And from an outsider like me, of course, it's easier to just ask that. But for a fighter, what does a fighter go through to actually, like before they turn pro, to actually make that decision to turn pro? Did you ever say to yourself, "No, I think instead of turning pro, I'm just going to go, get a 9 to 5 job type of thing"? Did you ever have doubts about being a boxer and maybe doing something else, or did you always know that's what you wanted to do at that time?
It was just always in my mind of turning pro. I would watch De La Hoya, Chavez, Chiquita Gonzalez. There was some of my those were some of my fighters that I liked and were that's the people that I looked up to aside of Robert, because we had him at in the gym. So from our gym, we all wanted to be like Robert. We all wanted to be like Robert, and he was our, like, let's say, our hometown hero at that time. So we all wanted to be Robert. We wanted to. Some people would want to even we would want to dress even like him. So and, I mean, we were kids, so we would always seen at the gym was Robert. Then after Robert came Fernando, and we all started doing that little, the haircut with the veins
with the
and all
veins.
this. But yeah, so but I believe that if boxing is in your blood or is something that you like or you love, no matter if people tell you not to turn pro or nothing, or only if, I mean, you're the worst fighter ever, but if you're a good fighter, and boxing is your passion and you love boxing, and you know no matter who tells you, you're gonna try to go follow your dreams, which my dreams at that time was become champion of the world. I mean, I was a step close to it, but I made wrong decisions, and it happens. But if you love the sport, ain't nobody gonna tell you, don't turn pro, or don't do it. Or, I mean, especially if you have the right people and the people that are really gonna back you up and everything, they're not gonna tell you not to do it. And
It,
I had my parents, I had my family, and they love boxing, so they wanted the best for me. So if they thought that was gonna be the best for me, they were right behind me.
Robert Garcia and Fernando Vargas. Obviously, Robert came out as a pro in '92, I believe, and then
Yeah.
Vargas made the '96 Olympics, and then turned pro a little bit after. How much of an impact were those two guys? The guys that are considered to be the door openers for everybody, or they actually kicked the door open, wide for all you guys. Everybody that followed, went through. But how much of an impact were they, at that gym at that time? Was there? Did you guys see like a big increase in kids coming in? Because they were motivating all these kids in the hood and in Oxnard to come out and start boxing. Did you see that little uprise because of their success?
Oh yeah. I mean, after Robert, became champion, like I'm telling you, we all wanted to be Robert. So all these kids from Colonia, which is the barrio there, started coming. A lot of people were, leaving the streets just to come and be around in the gym. Even if they weren't here to box, but they were here just to see Robert, just how he would train, how he would do things. And like I'm telling you, a lot of people would even try to be like him. And
Uh,
and, and Fernando came, later on,
mhm.
which he went to the Olympics, and that's where all the rest of the fighters that were there started thinking of going to the Olympics. Because at that time, to tell you the truth, I didn't know nothing about the Olympics till Fernando started, coming out in those little magazines from the USA Boxing,
That's right.
and saying he's Olympic hopeful,
Mhm.
and the newspaper. So we would all see that, and we would love the attention that he was getting, and we would love, he was going to the Olympics, and that's where I'm telling you, that's where I knew about the Olympics. If not, probably I wouldn't even known about them. But that's where I started seeing, Olympics, and that was one of my first, dreams that I had, going to the Olympics, and because of him, and with Robert becoming a world champion as a pro, because that's the first thing. Those are the first things that me and my brother seen, or besides, watching on TV with, Chavez and other fighters. But Robert and Fernando were different because we had them there at the gym.
You
So
know,
that's where we would want to be like them.
I remember, seeing Robert on the newspaper all the time, and that was in like the early '90s, '92. He debuted. He was only 17.
Yeah.
He was only 17, right before
Yeah.
his senior year in
Well, he
high
turned
school
pro in Japan.
in Japan. That's right, because
Yeah.
he couldn't turn pro here at before 18. So, anyways, I would see him all the time, and then years later, I would hear that he was still unbeaten. He was still fighting, and then Vargas comes through, and then he was an Olympic hopeful. He made the team, And I remember for his pro debut, I had to be there, and the auditorium was up the street from my house, literally,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
literally across the street from my house. And so we walked over there. We went to his pro debut, and it was on USA Tuesday Night Fights.
Yeah, Tuesday night fights.
And I remember that arena of just what, like 1,500 or whatever it might be, when
Yeah,
just,
I believe it's 1,500.
yeah, and just being in there, it felt like there's 20,000 people in there, just because of that, of this Oxnard kid that finally made it, and so I can't imagine what it was like for all you guys, for you guys to have made it as well. And you would later on, and we'll get to that right now, but later on, you would fight in that same arena and fight several times in that arena, bringing television and stuff as well. You and Rolando and a bunch of other local fighters as well. But man, those were some great times in boxing, and you guys uplifted the little city that we had. All of a sudden now it's a boxing city, and
Yeah, yeah.
it all started from all you guys, and it was an enjoyable time. And you started in 2000. You would fight there several times. In 2003, you fight in Oxnard for the first time as a pro. What was it like to fight there as a pro in 2003 there in your home city?
What? Well, my first fight wasn't. It didn't go that great, but just having the crowd, your people, and everybody cheering for you, man, it just feels so like different than when you go fight somewhere else because you get that extra pressure,
Mhm.
but at the same time you feel like, man, all these people are here for me. So you get a little bit of both. You get that pressure where like, man, what if I do wrong, or what if I do bad, or which that happened to me. On my first fight there, I got that all that pressure. Um, I didn't handle it the right way the first time because it was just too much emotion going through me. All my family, friends, people that local there that looked up to me, or they would see me as the next, Robert Fernando maybe, and you get all this pressure, and if you don't know how to handle it, things might go wrong. And like I said, that first fight that I did in Oxford, I got all that pressure, didn't know how to handle it, and I got a majority decision, I believe, and you know, but those are things where you learn.
Was that the fight where you like got that cut on the bridge of your nose?
Yes,
It was
that
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 one.
was that
Okay,
that
yeah,
was that fight.
that was a fight that I was telling you the other day that after the fight, you guys, I think it was Gonzo, Arturo Barraza, who took you guys over to my house, you and Roles, since you guys fought on
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
night.
That was
And
that was that night.
I found that picture, by the way, where I think I have a picture with you in my living room, and
Oh, really?
I'll send it to you in a little while. But yeah, I remember that fight, and seeing you. You did win by split decision, but you also fought adversity by being able to go through the whole match with it. It was a pretty deep gash there on the bridge of your nose. How did that affect you during that fight?
Well, see, I did have got a cut before, not as big, but during the rounds, it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger to where a lot of people say it's not that bad right there. The blood is just dripping down your nose, so it won't go into your eyes. But when you're getting hit, that blood is going everywhere. So it was going into my eyes. I remember I would sometimes see the lights and just see red, and I would be like, man, what's going on? So that affected me a little bit because I wasn't able to see sometimes. There was times where I wouldn't see punches, which at the same time I can't blame the other fighter or even myself because we were ready to fight and he was ready. He was there to fight. I mean, we can't blame anybody. Uh, but you know, stuff happens in boxing, and there's times where it's gonna come out your way or it's not. And that day it didn't come out my way the way I wanted to.
For the following years, you guys would keep bringing the cameras over here and all the Latino stations and all those fights that were coming out on TV. And you and Role, you guys headlined a lot of that. I remember just being out there, just being at the at those fights. It was like an event. It's like I remember
Yeah, it was.
tailgating outside in the parking lot. All of us were drinking out there, and watching out for the cops, making sure they didn't come and arrest us. And but it was a
It was.
blast, and people were there, and you see women there, and they probably didn't even watch boxing, but they were there because
But they were there. I
they knew
mean,
that was the
we had.
place to be.
Yeah, there was at that time. When we're filling these places up, it wasn't only boxing. We would try to make it fun. We would always, even on our in the back, we would always have music. I mean, I like banda, I like Spanish music. We always had it popping. We
Mm.
always had it making it fun, not making it to where it was just quiet and I mean, yeah, it's a time to be relaxing, being calm for the fight. But my thing was, if I feel happy and I feel excited and everything, I think it would be it's better for me than just being quiet, sitting down, doing nothing, and just
And
yeah,
then
you got to be focused, but you also got to make it to where you're alert,
and
make it exciting.
back then everybody, I mean, we all watched all the fights because there was a lot of local guys too, but we all went in there to see all the fights. Now people just kind of watch the main event and then head
And they're
home.
gone.
But back then it's
Yeah,
like
now back then it was like
you wanted to
you
see
wanted to see
everybody.
everybody
Yeah, you would see.
because there was
I think
there were local fighters,
Victor
there
was
was
would fight on those. I think Victor Ortiz,
Victor
Brandon,
Ortiz, Brandon Rios,
David Rodella. I think fought on some of those.
David Rodella,
Yeah,
and I believe even Chia. I don't remember.
yeah. I would have doubted if Chio might have fought on there. He just
I'm not sure, but
yeah,
we made it an exciting night.
man, it was
There,
fun.
maybe like you said, there was probably girls going there. Maybe they don't know nothing about boxing, but they were there
They were
because of the
there.
atmosphere.
It was the event. It was an event to go to, the place to be.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, exactly. But it just everything changes, and
And as your fight's going, you're racking up all these wins, fighting these guys like Cristobal Cruz and Alex Baba and Philip Payne, and all these guys, and you're racking up all these wins. You get up to about 31-0 in 2007, and then you don't fight anymore for 5 years. And
what
what happened there? How do you become 31-0 and just kind of stop there?
well, it was a little bit of everything that was going around my well, the people that I was surrounded with,
Mhm.
and it was a little things that just didn't make sense sometimes, and I also got a divorce during that time. um I had problems with my promoter manager. Well, not really problems, but just things that I felt they weren't doing right. And I had a contract at the time, couldn't break it. But the divorce came. I remember everywhere they were talking about my weight. um I was getting fights with a week notice, 2 week notice, and they were expecting me to be on weight when you know a guy that's either 25, even 20 fights, or if you're in the top 10, you should at least get a 2 month or 3 month to know when you're fighting in advance. But I wasn't getting that. They were calling me with a week notice, 2 week notice, and they would expect me to be on weight. So a lot of times that you guys would see that I wouldn't make weight, it was because it was that. They would call me. Yeah, there was a couple times where it was my fault, but that was because it was all in my head already that I'm gonna go make weight, the other guy's not, so I'm not gonna do it. Why am I gonna do it? So that's when everything started just being bad. Plus, I was with the wrong crowd. Going out, drinks. The stuff that I wasn't doing when I was dedicated 100%. And that happened also when I started leaving my dad aside because I felt like I knew everything already. When my dad was there since I was 8, all the way, till I was like 24, 25, all through my career, he was always in the gym next to me, trying to push me, not interfering with my coach, which during that time it was Ruben, and not interfering with him either, giving me water, just having that support,
Right.
of him, having him there. Once I started feeling that I knew everything and I was, everything by myself, I didn't need nobody. that's when I started, you know, that's when I started getting out of hand.
You started losing focus on what was there. In other words,
Yes, yes. Plus, I'm telling you, my divorce came. I also at that time, they were telling me to stay at home, you know, be a regular family man, have a 9 to 5 job, and stay home and just have my job, and that way I could be a family man. Instead of having that support, but I didn't have it. Then when I did try to come back, well, I was already divorced. I had my wife now. She was always with me, supporting me. Having my back and everything. But at the same, but once you get to that age where you're not feeling it no more. Um, yeah, I was getting, I would go to the gym training and I would just feel like dead tired.
now all this
So
now all this that you're speaking of, was that between the 2007 and 2012, like that 5 years, or are you
yes,
talking overall after everything there, that after your whole career was done after 2012?
no, this is between what my last fight was
And
2012 or
that,
what
that
is it?
was that was your last fight, yeah,
Yeah. So this was going on between 2007 to
to 2012.
2012.
Then you come back in 2012. You fight two fights. You win them there locally in Oxnard, and then again that was the end of your story. Now, like you were
Well,
saying,
see there.
like you were saying, living in Oxnard, being an outsider, me, I hear all the stories from all around, rumors, people saying it was a family, it was probably because of some family issues you had. There's people that are saying it was weight issues that you had. There's people that are saying you just didn't have it anymore. There's people that were saying this and that and this and that. Coming from you directly, aside from all that bullcrap, just coming from you directly, what exactly happened? With your career there, you were undefeated. Who doesn't want to be at that position? You were a local fighter from Oxnard. You had brought TVs many times in your career, and then it's just over. What exactly happened there to Jose Aguiniga?
You know what? Like I'm telling you, it was just, my divorce came. I had that problem with, my manager promoter, and, I had a contract. So like I'm telling you, I couldn't break it. I was on hold for a while. Plus, they were offering me fights. And when they're offering fights, even if it's with a week notice, that means you're still practically at work, you know? So you can't break it because they're offering you work, which is fighting. So they were offering me with a week notice, and they would wait, a couple months, and then they'll come back again with a week notice. So they had me on hold like that, and I did take a couple fights like that before this, and I fought them just so they could see that I still want to fight. I don't want to just be on hold, have me on hold, or you know because supposedly, see, in what was it when I won the title, the North American 2005, I believe. After that, Cameron called me and told me, and when I won that, he called me. Okay, you're North American champion. Right after this, you're gonna be number one. You're gonna be ranked number one in the world. And I was, I'm happy, because I'm ranked number one in the world now, or that's what Cameron told me. And then instead of keeping me fighting, letting me know with some time, and because I was already, I was ranked number one in the world supposedly, and I wasn't getting no time to get ready. And I was the fighters that I would fight. Don't think I would know with the 2 months notice. I would be no. They would tell me about the fighters I would fight with like 2 weeks notice. So I didn't have that time to even, adjust to a fighters because I would have to adjust at the fight to the fighters that I was fighting. The only fighter that I could remember that I got time to know who I was fighting was with I won the NABA title.
You're talking about the Hugo Ramirez fight.
Yeah, Hugo Ramirez. That's the only fight that I had some time, or where they let me know with time who I was fighting. So then after that, like I'm telling you, they would come in with a week notice, and I started, leaving it. I was there, but then I got the divorce. There was times where I would get calls, hey, let's meet up. Instead of going to the gym, I would take a U-turn and go, have some drinks, be out. And that's where everything started going down and down. And it just once without even noticing, I was already out of the gym.
After your final fight, I think I want to say the next year, unless it was a year after that, there was a fight that was supposed to happen in Pacifica. Remember at the high school in Pacifica
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in Oxnard. I think a few days prior to it, they announced that you weren't going to be able to be on it for whatever reason, and then the fight was supposedly still going to happen, or the rest of the card was going to happen, and then it all gets canceled on the day of the event. And then
That,
from there, everything kind of added to, as it is. Everybody had all the rumors on you, and now
yeah,
this kind of added, kind of they buried you even more with rumors. What happened at that event, by the way?
that happened was just it was a whole mess. The whole event was a mess. I mean, I'm not gonna talk about the people that made the event because they were my friends. Um, but it was just a mess. It was gonna be done in Santa Paula in some golf course. Then they changed it to the Pacifica High School. Um, I believe there wasn't even an opponent for me. Um, and prior to maybe like 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before, I was sparring and I had hurt my hand, and I really didn't want to fight because of my hurt. I had hurt my hand, but it was a whole mess with the whole thing. Like I'm telling you, we didn't have an opponent. Um, and then after I got out of the card. Everybody was just falling out. All the other fights, they were
Right.
just falling out and
That's
falling
right.
out, and then so that's why it had to get canceled. But sometimes boxing is a sport where there's a lot of things to it, and when
Yeah.
you're not ready to do it, or let's say even to put a show on, if you don't have that experience, it's really hard. And I believe this is what happened to the people that were there trying to do it.
Besides the rumors themselves, I never heard, exactly, what it was about or what happened. I go, maybe he just lost interest. Maybe he just decided to go have a family, and that was it. But I never really heard it, from you. Well, it's best to get it from you directly, and now I did. But what was it like during your time? Like we were talking about all the times that you fought in Oxnard. What was it like now looking back? At your age now, looking back, what was it like
Well,
representing your city of Oxnard at that time, the 805? What was it like for you during those moments back then?
man, I don't even have words to explain
Mhm.
how I went through this era where it was the best of Oxnard, within boxing, and I was part of it, and now I have, I'm it gets me sometimes emotional thinking, I was part of it, and I could have done things better to for myself, and do things like Robert and Fernando that I had that dream as a little kid looking up to them, and I could have done either similar to them or I don't know, maybe better. You never know, but it just it's a thing where I'm never gonna know.
And,
But it is great, being part of
and you
that
show,
era where it was the best probably era in boxing till now.
yeah, man. I mean, I even get goosebumps just thinking of those moments back then of, like I said, just partying outside in the parking lot, and then going inside and having a bigger party in there. But man, the excitement was unreal, and it was thanks to all you guys. Your name's Sweet. That was your nickname, Sweet Jose Aguiniga. How did you get that name?
Sweet was this was my first fight. I got Sweet. Uh, Ruben Juarez. He was there in my first fight, and he's like, "Do you have a nickname?" And this is right there in the dressing room. I had my gloves on and everything, and what are you gonna have as your nickname? And I'm like, nothing. I'm all right just with my name. And then he tells me, we're just gonna call you Sweet Pea. But he didn't say it as in like Sweet Pea Whitaker or any other fighter that has the Sweet Pea name.
Mhm.
He just said Sweet Pea because Popeye the baby. At that time, When I turned pro, I still had that kid face. So I was like, everybody that I would fight that looked older would, sometimes make fun of me, thinking they're gonna fight a kid. So that's the reason. That's the reason he's, named me Sweetly. He wanted to name me Sweetly, and I never liked being having a nickname or something, that's the same as somebody else or another fighter take somebody else's fight nickname or so. I told him, nah, I don't want nothing. Just leave it, whatever. Just leave it as that, and just my name, Jose Aguiniga or Jose Miguel Aguiñiga, and that's it. And he's like, all right. And then he leaves, leaves, comes back. We're doing mitts, getting ready to go in. And we go in there, and they just announced Sweet Jose Aguiniga, and yeah, that's what it just stayed. But that's the story of the Sweet name.
That's actually a forgotten name that a lot of people in Oxnard kind of forgot from, unless you were around back then in boxing, was the name of your trainer, Ruben Juarez. What was he like as a trainer? I know a lot of people kind of, you know, with all, of course, Robert's the guy right now and one of the top trainers in the world right now. All credit to him, of course.
Oh yeah.
Guys like Ruben Juarez, what was he like? He's kind of a forgotten name there in Oxnard. Well, what was he like as a trainer?
Oh, well, he did. I did most of my amateur and pro career with them. To me, he was like a dad to me. You know, he would take me to tournaments. He would pay from his own hand and everything. I mean, he was all through my pro career. I mean, he was like, I'm telling you, he was like that to me. Um, a great man, you know, uh, a great trainer. Always there at the gym with me. Like he wouldn't let me, he wouldn't leave my side. Um, yeah, he's out of it because me and Orlando were his top fighters because he was training with Orlando too for most of his fights as well, and me and Orlando were like his top fighters. So once we left, and he practically lost interest. He I guess we the passion he had for it were me and Orlando were the ones that kept him in there. I mean, he still goes to the gym here and there, but months me and him took like he didn't take it serious no more. So we practically once we left, he left. You know what I mean? And it happened like me and Orlando. We had everything to do big things, but we left it. And Ruben also had big he had potential as a coach, being a top coach or trainer, but he left it as well because we practically took what he had. We took that passion from him too. Once we left, once me and Rolando stopped. So I see him around. I talk to him still, and he's still that great person. He's always happy, fun, but just the boxing. He's not interested. He's not as serious as he was before when we were fighting.
Obviously we're over here talking about this great time in boxing, and we're not taking away anything from any fighters out. After that, there's been great fighters like Mikey Garcia and other fighters that are still out there and representing Oxnard, which is great. Um, but we're talking about the when there was a whole lot of fighters at one time from Oxnard, and that was during your time, where we had so many of them all at one time.
Oh yeah.
Unlike today, there is some scattered out there, but not they're
No,
not bringing the fights there locally in Oxnard like we once had it with you guys. Um,
there. To tell you the truth, there's really not nothing out there right now from Oxnard that you can say they're coming up or they're. I mean, I'm not really into the amateur stuff right now, so I wouldn't really know. But once you know people around the amateur, somebody's gonna talk a little bit of somebody, and I haven't heard anything.
and what do you think of boxing today? Or especially in your weight class right now, there seems to be a lot of nice competition at the moment. What do you think of boxing today, or do you even watch boxing today?
Oh, I watch it all the time, but it's also not as it was like before. Now it's a business. Now it's just money, and this is not really the sport, which sucks because how many fighters are out there doing it for the sport, not for the money, and they don't even get paid as much like these guys. Even look at now with the YouTubers, um, just the YouTubers is a disrespect. To me, it's a disrespect for boxing. Uh, and I don't know why the commission or even us people, because I even pay to watch that shit. But
Yeah.
but I don't know why the commission would even give them license without having no amateur career or any experience in boxing. And all of a sudden they want to come out from being YouTubers to all of a sudden trying to be fighters or boxers and calling out these big names like Mayweather, just and fighting these guys for money when the real people that are training to fight and make money and sometimes even leaving families behind. There, how many fighters have died lately that do it for the love of boxing, and we don't get the same respect. These YouTubers are getting more respect than us fighters. So just imagine how disrespectful it is for us fighters that love boxing.
Are you glad you're out of the sport now?
You know what? I am, just because all the just how boxing is now. I mean, and it's not it's not what it was. Boxing, we back then was, we would do it for love, for the love of the sport. Um, like I'm telling you, the pay wasn't great for us, but we were there fighting. See if we sometimes would get to being a Julio Cesar Chavez, Oscar De La Hoya. Those were our goals, making it to be a Chavez, a De La Hoya, Fernando Vargas, a Robert Garcia. There's so many, Salvador Sanchez, fighters that love the sport and didn't do it sometimes for money. I mean, they made money after they become you know, 3-time world champions or 2-time. You know, that's when they started making money. But if you really see it now, it's just yeah. I mean, look at Lomachenko fought for a world title in his first or second fight. So you know, it's just. I mean, they're great fighters. I'm not taking nothing away from them because they're great fighters. But nobody now if you got the right promoter or right manager, or you're fighting for a world title within 10 fights, 12 fights. It's crazy, but like I'm telling you, it's a business. Now it's a business. It's not really for the love. I mean, how many people don't even like boxing, and and they're boxing because they're making money. I know a couple that like other sports, really don't like boxing, but they're making money.
There's been like actually like friends that I used to go to fights with, or that I know that used to love boxing, and now I talk to them and I'll be like, "Are you gonna watch this fight?" And they'll tell me, "Oh, no, I don't watch boxing. You still watch boxing?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, they're into MMA, or they're into MMA now, where they just don't watch boxing anymore because so many bad decisions and politics, and it's not the same anymore. And and back to what we were saying, it was that was like the last time it was good,
Yeah, yeah.
for us, especially locally over there.
See, that's what this is where I'm getting to. Like, man,
Uh,
boxing has lost so many fans because of the bad decisions.
it's almost a circus atmosphere now.
Yeah, I, I'm not gonna on Instagram, I believe. I seen a kid that was motivated because Jake Paul, or I don't remember, Jake Paul or Logan Paul, one of them, that was their motivation, to box. And I was like, really? Like that's a motivation to
uh,
box? Seeing these people, these clowns.
like it's come down to that, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Like, man, that's the motivation. If you're a kid and you know about boxing, your motivation is gonna be Julio Cesar Chavez, Oscar De La Hoya, fighters like that, Pernell Whitaker, Fernando. I'm telling you, those kind of fighters. But if you got Jake Paul or Paul Logan or whatever they're called, and that's your motivation, like you can see how boxing has gone, where it's been. like or gone.
Before, let's say Vargas would step in the ring, we'd rush to go get some beer at the store, before his fight, and then you'd get to the store, and you would go to the register with your beer, and then you would hear people talking to each other. Oh yeah, are you watching the fight too? Oh yeah, and it seemed like the world stopped in Oxnard during that time when there was boxing going on.
Oh yeah,
With those fighters, it seemed like everybody knew, when there was boxing there, and
because
we've
because
come
because it
down.
was all exciting.
Eh,
It was always exciting.
yeah, we've come down to a point where even when there was people from Oxford fighting, there's other people I didn't even know it. And
Yeah,
that's how different it is. And you guys were at a great time and a great era, and maybe you guys didn't make the money that you could have or should have or whatever, or maybe you did. It didn't matter, but we remember those times, and I when I post things on boxing, it's like people always. I know people will remember those times, and people have told me stuff about those times, and that was what makes it so great.
yeah.
You know what? I know.
Well, if you remember, we would go to the fights, and then from there, people would go clubbing.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what
Right
happened.
after the fights,
I'm guilty.
and
I have my hand up. I'm guilty of doing it. And
so it was just totally different.
yeah, totally
I mean,
different.
now even now, if you pay for a fight, you're just waiting for the main event.
And main
That's it.
event, yeah, yeah. All of us, like now, I don't know how many times I've done it where I literally would get home until 8 o'clock, just to watch a main event, and then that was it. And I was like, wow, now I have to dish out 50, $60,
Yeah,
and back then I remember when Oscar used to fight and Vargas and Trinidad, and you
all
would,
the undercard, the whole
yeah, you
undercard
would
was
watch the whole undercard. Yeah, man.
and
you
top
know
fighters.
yeah, and even Don King too. Don King. I'll give him that credit. I remember watching
Yeah.
that. I remember watching Chavez. Oh man, who did he fight? And on the undercard was Trinidad and Yori Boy Campos, and
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
you would see Terry Norris and all these
It
guys,
was,
man,
but
and
great fighters.
yeah, the whole card, man, the whole card. You saw somebody, and now it's like there's
And
one
now you see
one
one.
main event, and then the rest you don't know who the heck they are.
Yeah, and maybe they'll do an exciting fight though.
Yeah, shoot,
That undercard, maybe they're the ones that will take the show
and
now.
sometimes and most of the times they do, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because
And
sometimes the main event is just sometimes boring, pretty much.
yeah, that's true. And even though that you're a young man and you still got 100 years to go, in this
I
in this
wish.
in this lifetime, but what I ask everybody, man, what do you want the what I call the three big F's? Your friends, your family, your fans. How do you want to be remembered down the line when it's all said and done?
How would I want to get remembered? Somebody humbled. That I fought for my fans, for my family, because at the end, that's all we have. We have our family, and then if you're a great fan of ours, you're always going to be remembered by them. So, if you're a fan of boxing, you're always going to remember these kind of fighters. Not just me. I'm talking about the era that we had in Oxnard. They're always going to have. You're always going to remember these fighters, and that's how I want to get remembered. As the era of boxing and that era in boxing that was in Oxnard. Not really just me, just that era where it just, like you said, where Oxnard, where came up and was, well. I mean, Fernando was the one that really put it on the map, but we had a little. After that, we had our little put in there. So that's as just a humble person, and did my fights for my fans and for my family. Like I said, sometimes we got no friends, we just got families, and there's sometimes where the fans remember you more than friends. So that's all I mean I could say.
Well, Jose, I think being a big boxing fan, especially from Oxnard, and every time I think of my fighters from Oxnard, I tag something with them. I Robert, first world champion from there, Fernando, Olympian, and superstar of Oxnard. Mikey, great fighter, probably the elite fighter of Oxnard. And then there's that guy with the perfect undefeated record named Jose Aguiniga that is also there, man. And he has that unblemished record, and that would be you. And I thank you very much for coming on and taking the time and giving us your thoughts and giving us those highlights of your career, man. That I remember you the most for, which is bringing us all this, excitement in Oxnard for all those different times that you fought there for us. And I appreciate it. I'm sure all the fans from, Oxnard appreciate it and remember those times, with the deep fondness and smile every time, we do think of that. And, thank you very much for, doing that for us, man.
No, well, thank you, Albert, and thank you for having me and talking to me. And now maybe some people have a different perspective out of me, and not think that I left the sport for a certain reason. I think I explained myself why, and they know. But one thing, I never got it out there that I was retired. Maybe now I could say it in your show, and that I am retired. It had never came out of my mouth till now.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's I've been retired.
And never say never, man. We saw
Hey
Tyson,
man,
we saw Tyson and Roy Jones not too long ago, man. But
hey, maybe at 50 something years old, I'll probably make a comeback.
hey, give it 10 years, man, and keep training. We'll see where that
I'll
gets.
probably get ready and start calling out that Logan Paul or what's his name, one of them. Or probably make enough money now with them.
Hey, you never know, man. Anything's possible today.
Anything.
It's called the internet.
Yeah, exactly. But thanks for having me, and we'll be talking.